Rookie of the Year, shock winner in Suzuka, future champion of the world? Not so long ago, nobody would have seriously said that about Oscar Piastri, as he announced he'd be spending his rookie season at Mclaren. But as the news emerged that Oscar has signed a contract extension to keep them in the Papaya garage until 2026, everyone is wondering, is the man from down under the future number one? We're going to have a look at the facts and statistics that have necessitated this bold move from Zak Brown and the Mclaren team to see who is truly the next star of Formula One. Is it British pro gamer and fan favourite Lando Norris? Or does their Australian babyface teammate have what it takes to oust them from one of F1's greatest teams? Let's get into it. Piastri's year so far has been hailed as one of the best rookie seasons of F1's modern era, with some even comparing it to Lewis Hamilton's barnstorming 2007 at McLaren, where, alongside Fernando Alonso, he famously claimed his first win in only their 6th Grand Prix in Canada. Now, Formula One has moved on from those heady V12 powered days, so it's not fair to write Piastri off as a generational talent just because they don't have a win yet. Thanks, Adrian Newey. But just how far can Oscar go in the remainder of 2023? With a solid start to his year, yielding multiple points finishes, and glimpses of mercurial talent in their impressive performances in Britain, and in Belgium, where Oscar qualified only .011 behind Max Verstappen, and then went on to lead their first career laps in the sprint race. Last time out in Singapore, Oscar produced a fantastic drive after being caught in the yellows following Lance Stroll's big crash in qualifying, to score more points with a 7th place finish. And while some of this can be attributed to the McLaren's dramatic improvements throughout the year, let's not forget, that car was dog shit at the start of the year, with endless amounts of drag and inconsistent cornering, earning it the nickname the Orange Williams from some of the sport's more derisive commentators. But this looks fairly unimpressive compared to the fortunes of their teammate this year. Lando Norris has hauled the number 4 car to P2 podium finishes in Britain, Hungary and Singapore, and is starting to really strut their stuff now they have a car they understand underneath them, spending their time battling with the likes of former teammate Carlos Sainz and fellow Twitch squad member George Russell. That leaves Norris 55 points ahead of Piastri headed into this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka, a track many are predicting will suit the McLaren's grippy style on its twisty high G corners. So how can we predict what could be an almighty tussle between McLaren's two young hotshots? Well, key at Suzuka is the ability to corner precisely. Its sweeping nature rewards cars that are responsive on corner entry, and yet despite this, cars usually spend over 60% of a lap at full throttle. Looking at the track map, anyone hoping to contend with Red Bull will breathe a sigh of relief to see that the only DRS zone is on the main start-finish straight, and crucially, not on the backstretch as well. Combine this with the momentum within the McLaren-affiliated areas of the paddock, and it looks like it could be a strong weekend for both of their drivers. But who'll have the edge? My hunch is Piastri. While it will be their first time racing at the track, they'll be able to claw back one key advantage from their teammate, and a fairly significant one at that. Until now, Lando's car has been the only McLaren with their new aero package, which is shown in some key areas throughout the mid-season. Best illustrating this is the team's performances in qualifying at Zandvoort, where Piastri was 0.8 of a second slower on average over a lap than their teammate, with 0.5 of that being lost in the first sector alone, a sector that, as we all know, rewards well-maintained aero balance that Piastri's car simply didn't have. But as the drivers roll into Japan, the McLaren garage will finally be a level playing field, so Oscar can finally show where he stacks up against Zak Brown's favourite. It's no secret that McLaren's head honcho thinks the sun shines from Lando's rear end. Unsurprising when that rear end has been so instrumental in developing McLaren's cars since 2019. But the fact that so much of the McLaren's design is moulded around Lando's style is what makes Piastri giving them a run for their money so impressive. We can look at exactly what I mean here with the help of Formula Addict's handy graphic from qualifying in Silverstone, visualising the two McLaren's performance through their best laps. On corner exit, heading towards the end of the first sector, we can see how much more traction Lando's car had, despite both drivers taking a similar line through the apex. Skipping forward through the lap, Piastri is clearly pushing harder, searching for the grip, holding the car right on the edge, but not getting the same response from the front end that Lando has. And as they cross the line, all things considered, a remarkable effort from the Australian in what was then inferior machinery. Now turning our attention back to Japan, where the circuit is in many areas similar to Silverstone in terms of speed and cornering focus, and then towards the cold hard numbers, Piastri will likely be grinning from ear to ear. In Britain, they were less than a tenth of a second from their teammate's best lap in the unmodified McLaren. But this weekend, they get all the same new toys Lando has been perfecting for the last 5 or more race weekends. Upgrades that include, but aren't limited to, revised front wing end plates, a new side pod inlet design, reworked mirror and halo furniture that combines with new body shaping on the engine cover, and a fully revised floor with new fences, edges, and a brand spanking new diffuser. while combining these upgrades with the new medium-low downforce rear wing trialled in Austria, which will further encourage the car's rotation in high to mid-speed corners. Overall, it's estimated that this package can seriously do some damage to the MCL60's underlying weakness at low speeds. And while every track is different, at Suzuka, the rumours floating around are whispering that compared to the base car that Piastri's been driving, this new B-Specs McLaren's upgrades could be worth anywhere between half a second to 1.8 seconds per lap, enough to easily overthrow the qualifying deficit we saw in Britain. So let's see how this race weekend shapes out. But since Oscar's contract is for more than just the next race, let's cast our eye further into the future to see how the battle between teammates might go for years to come. Piastri's start to his McLaren career was a rocky one, with their infamous contract debacle with Alpine limiting their true time in orange in the build-up to 2023. Much of McLaren's car development had been done in secret in the latter stages of the previous year, and while Piastri was a shared-duty reserve driver for McLaren at that time, their status as dual Alpine development driver meant that McLaren would have kept their cards close to the chest around him to make sure that their super-secret design choices were airtight. So when Oscar finally was confirmed to be jumping into a McLaren driver's seat, it was a seat bolted to a car that they'd had no real hand in developing. Instead, it was a custom job by Lando Norris, which ultimately fell flat on its face when it broke cover at pre-season testing in Bahrain. Next year's car, whatever it might look like, will be largely similar, likely building on the concept and platform from 2023, which has shown glimpses of greater levels of adaptability and progression. Ultimately, this means it'll likely be tailored more towards whatever Lando wants. But 2025 onwards is a different story. Sweeping technical and engine regulation changes have been designed to shake the grid up and produce much more competitive racing. Teams that have the capacity to hit the ground running will be at an advantage as they design new cars from the ground up, and McLaren for sure have the abilities to do well in that area. And that process will absolutely be more balanced between their two highly talented drivers. Piastri's time in the junior formulas was often heralded by their ability to pick a well-suited setup across the calendar, so giving the talented Australian carte blanche to dictate what they want their F1 car to drive like is certainly a likely recipe for success. The ensuing battle driver to driver is one I tip to go Piastri's way. After all, he has a coach in his corner, fellow Aussie Mark Webber, who knows all about taking on champion material teammates. And who knows, maybe that will finally be enough to push Lando over the edge, into that seat Red Bull have been very publicly keeping warm for them. Whatever happens next, Oscar's so-called pastry is a driver you won't be able to ignore in Formula 1 for years to come. Who do you think will come out on top in the Piastri-Norris battle? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed that video and want to support the channel, remember to hit like, subscribe, and click the link below to get your say on what content I cover next. But as always, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, stay safe out on the road, and I'll see you next time.
Earnhardt Jr. takes it. Lewis Hamilton, champion of the world.
Ewan Kankin, 4 times title holder.